In this video, I want to do a presentation on Geomagic Design X Go. So as many of you know, this is a brand new product to our portfolio, and I wanted to run through a basic demonstration to show you what functionality is included in this platform. For those of you that are new to the Geomagic product portfolio, this is based off of the Geomagic Design X Professional platform. And Go is one of the tiers in that software lineup. And today we'll cover what you get inside of the DesignX Go. But just as a quick introduction, if you haven't used DesignX, DesignX is essentially a reverse engineering software product that is designed to be able to bring in 3D scan data and extract CAD model information in a variety of different ways and fashions, and then export that data to whatever manufacturing process that you're looking to go create these objects. So what we've done is we've built our software on top of a CAD platform with our own scan kernel all in one. So you can think of this as a CAD software that has scan data as native entities within its platform. And because of that, scan data is not a second-class citizen like it is in a lot of CAD platforms. You can reference it, and you'll see some of these tools along the way where I can best fit, and I can use scan data just like I would use any other CAD data inside of our platform. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing to understand about DesignX Go that differentiates itself from the other products in our portfolio is the way you bring in information. So what we have is the ability to bring in data by importing. So if you come over to this home tab and you see where we have import, you'll see that we have a plethora of extensions here of files that we bring in. Some of these range from neutral mesh formats like STL, OBJ, PLY, to all kinds of different point cloud formats like ASCII, XYZ, CSV, and even scanner vendors, scanner OEMs, and all the different types of files that they use as well. So this is all built right into Go where you can import data with the importers built right in. The next method is going over to the live capture, or right here, this little drop down. We do have a few triggers for some scanner vendors. These aren't full-on plugins. All they are is triggers that go open up the software if that company lets us do that, and it opens up their software, allows you to scan in their software, and then once you hit done there, it will dump the data back inside of our product. So those are the two different ways of bringing in information into DesignX Go. The most important tool to understand within DesignX Go is this concept of a mesh sketch. So like any software, you have the ability to create a sketch, and then after you create that sketch, you will then utilize other features like extrude, revolve, things like that. But we have this concept of a mesh sketch. In the mesh sketch, allows you to select a mesh to reference, and you'll see here you have a lot of different options here. We'll just unpack a few of them, but you can see that I can drag and offset that plane up throughout the mesh and intersect it in other different locations. So you have the ability here to add multiple sections, so I can slice multiple sections throughout the mesh. I have the ability to cut sections only through certain areas of the mesh. So you see here I can change the size of that plane, only cut through certain areas. I can limit cutting to regions, as we'll talk about later in this video, where I can create regions and only cut cross sections through those. And then another feature here, as you see this second arrow, is we have the ability to silhouette. So if I just drag this all the way up, you'll see here that it creates a silhouette of the entire part and creates a profile for that. And then a final one that we might cover later on in this video here is the ability to create a rotational silhouette about an axis, which is really handy as well. So I'll go ahead and accept that, and you see that what we have now is a 3D sketch, and I could turn my mesh off. And not a 3D sketch, but a 2D sketch. And in this sketch, I have all the sketching tools that I would inside of a CAD package, all the basic ones here. And I can, just for instance, I can take this line tool and I can draw a line wherever I want. I can best fit a line by windowing in some scan data, and you see I'm doing this on purpose here. I can best fit a line to whatever data, and I can add and remove, and it will best fit a line to that area. And if I just double click, it'll accept it. We also go through, and depending on the geometry that you're going to create, in this instance a line, we will also try to highlight what we think are lines in this profile here. So if I just roll over that and click it, you'll see that it'll best fit a line to that area as well without having to best fit by windowing in like we did here. And this works for all of these different entities here. So you see that I did that with the line, but what we're going to do is go ahead and use the rectangle. So with the rectangle, I can come in and I can click an area on the mesh or anywhere and draw a rectangle. And if I wanted to do it this way, I could draw out a rectangle and then snap it as well. I could snap these four sides to the data. I could do it that way. Or one final method that is really neat is I have the ability to window in and best fit like we talked about before. I can just add to the selection there. And it will best fit a rectangle to that data, and I can hit accept and then accept that rectangle. Now, just as an aside, you do have the ability here to fit other things. I'm not going to fit the circle right now, but here, if I wanted to fit a circle to that, I can. If I wanted to fit a slot to this data and even select partial data, because it's missing some areas here, I can come in and window in and say, I want to fit a slot to just this information here, and then accept it. Now, you may notice that it's adding relations and constraints here. So you see that I have a horizontal and I have tangent and parallel. We also have the ability to add those manually or add dimensions too. So you see here that I can drag out and create dimensions, and I can even override these and make it what I think it should be, right? So I have that ability to add dimensions, relations, and constraints to this profile here and fully constrain it. And for later knowledge, all of this does transfer over to CAD when we get to that stage and send it over to CAD. So we'll start out with this cross section here, and you'll see that if I rotate it, I drew that directly over top of the scan data in 3D space. So now I can come over and I can say I would like to extrude that up. And you see here I can extrude it all the way past the top of that top of the part there, and then I can create that. So you see here that we just created a solid body over top of that scan data. So if I hide the solid, hide the scan data, you see that we drew that directly over top. Now for the next step, if we want to go ahead and create a cross section here and cut out this pocket, we can easily do so. So before I get started with cutting that cross section, let's talk a little bit about regions. Under the Regions tab, you have the ability to select scan data. So in this instance, I'm going to grab this paint bucket tool that we call Smart Selection. And if I just roll and I click and I drag up on screen, I can select all those triangles. Now, if I want to save that selection, I can come over to Insert, and it will create a region for me. And a lot of times I'll go ahead and create multiple regions at once while I'm at it. I can say, hey, let's create one here. Let's create one there. I'll go ahead and go around the part when I'm kind of in the region phase of my workflow and create regions that I might want to use later on. So that's what I'm doing here. You can just come in, and there's lots of different ways of selecting geometry. I'm just using the Smart Selector tool, which does a great job for prismatic shapes like this. When you have good scan data, it's easy for the software to figure this out. Just create those. And you see here for the top surface, I can create one and hit insert. So you see there, I just created a bunch of regions. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and switch my tool back to the rectangle selector, click on that, and I can say create a mesh sketch directly on that and bump this up. And there you go. We can create a cross section just like we did a mesh sketch where I can then come in and fit geometry just like I did before. So if I were going to draw this, one way to do this would be to come in like this and just draw it out. And if I wanted to snap it in this instance, I can snap it. I can fit lines individually if I want to, a whole host of different ways of doing it. And I can come in also and I can drag and then determine what I want this radius to be. So if I go ahead and accept it, I can say, hey, maybe this needs to be 45.5, hit OK, and it will override and dimension that for me. So now if I hit OK, and we'll go ahead and turn the scan on, you see it drew it directly over top of that information. Turn the CAD on. Now I can come over to the Home tab and say, let's do an extrude, and I want to cut through all of that geometry, and there we go. We just created a surface extrude and cut through there. Now for freeform surfaces, I have the ability to cut multiple sections through here and create a loft if I wanted to. So I could offset planes and draw profiles all the way through and create that lofted surface if you want to. Or I can also use this tool that we call Mesh Fit. So if I come over here and say Mesh Fit and click on that region there, what you can do is you can rotate this, and this is going to be basically the bounding box for how it's going to blanket that top area, that top surface, with a NURBS CAD surface there, right? So we're just adjusting, like blanketing a surface directly over top. Now you have the ability to hit preview, and it will go ahead and preview fitting a surface to the top here. And you have the ability to go backwards, and you can say, hey, I want to use more control points. Let's say I want to use 40. I want to reduce the overall smoothness. You can manipulate the UV axes. You can extend it. There's a bunch of different methods for how it extends. So you can try these all out. And today I'm just going to go ahead and fit something that's quick like this and use it to fit to the surface. But there are lots of settings that you can play with to edit that. So if I'm happy with it, I can go ahead and hit accept, turn on my surfaces, turn on my solid, and now I have the ability to come over and cut that with a surface. So if I just jump over to model and I come over to cut, you see here I can say with this tool entity, this target body, next, accept this. There we go. Turn off my surface. So there we just cut that top surface from the solid there. So that is how I would approach that sort of modeling if I have the ability to use that mesh fit. You could also manually draw it like I talked about before. We also have some automated prismatic tools that you can use as well. So one of them is I could come over here and say I want to fit my spheres. So if I say let's go ahead and fit sphere, hit next, And we just, if I hide the mesh, you see that we went ahead and fit those. Now, when we fit those, you'll see that if I come over here to the sphere, I can edit the sketch and edit the feature. So when we create those, we give you the ability to come back over in the history tree and edit those and make changes to them. So that's an important thing to recognize, that you're able to fit prismatic shapes automatically, and you're not stuck with them. You're able to edit them and work with them. So we also have the ability, if you go ahead and turn the scan back on, turn the solid off. So we also have the ability to fit cylinders as well. So if I come over to the solid prismatic cylinder, select these, hit next, accept, and then you see here I can also do cone. So I'll switch over to the cone. So if I turn my solids on, there you see that we've modeled those in that way. So one final piece of functionality that I want to show that's in here, this part doesn't necessarily highlight the power of this tool, but it is a really interesting tool that I want to show that is valuable for modeling downstream. So I wanted to highlight the fact that we do have 3D sketching inside of this platform. So if I come over here to 3D sketch, I have very basic tools here which will allow me to extract splines from the mesh. One of them is just drawing directly on the mesh. So if I come over here and I say I want to draw directly on this surface, so I have the ability to zoom in here and I can just draw directly on the mesh here 3D curves that are directly over. Now, one caveat here is that this is not like full Design X where it will interpolate in between my clicked points, the other sections of the spline. So the interior is not snapping to the mesh. It's only snapping to the mesh at the endpoints that I click, which is still a super powerful tool here to capture the overall shape. So if I wanted to come around and just draw on the surface here a 3D spline directly on the mesh, if I just right click, it accepts. So we just drew a 3D sketch right on the surface. And just another example just to highlight the power of this. I'm just drawing right on the sphere, and you see it draws that directly on that surface, and it snaps to the sphere at those endpoints there. So that is a huge piece of functionality. Now, for this part, do I need this? No, I'm just showing that the tool is there. The other thing that's neat is you can convert entities from CAD edges and other things throughout the part. And then the section tool is awesome. So if I just say I want to section through this geometry, I can look at this from the top view, side view, wherever I want, and I can just draw sections. And you can definitely see how if I were going to loft the top surface here, that I could come through. And again, I'm creating messy geometry here, but you see what I mean. I can cut through and create cross sections through that mesh. And you saw that there were a bunch of different methods in here as well. So if I come back over here, there's a bunch. I can do them radial, cylindrical, like I can fit cross sections a number of different ways. So if I just wanted to extract these and send them over to CAD, I can do that extremely fast. So one of the final, just extremely powerful tools here that I wanted to highlight in our software is the ability to, whatever I model at any point throughout the process, I can stop and I can say, check deviation for body. So if I just go ahead and I hit this, you'll see that it just takes it a second the first time, and it will calculate a 3D comparison between the scan data and the CAD model, and it will give me a 3D color map. And another side benefit of this is the fact that as I roll over the surface with my mouse, you see that it gives me the deviation in that area. So if I need to change something about, you'll notice on the side here that this is a drafted part, right? So I could model this a different way because we don't have draft in here in the tools, but I could model this a different way in here or apply draft over in the other software that I'm going to send it to in a second. But you'll see here that it gives you a 3D comparison to you, so you can figure that stuff out before you go ahead and try to manufacture a part. So you have this ability to run deviation for body at any moment during the process of modeling to check your 3D compare against the scan data to see if you're modeling what you intend to model. So we'll just toggle that back off. Now for the final section here, one of the most powerful tools within inside of DesignX Go is the ability to send whatever I've modeled over to CAD. So I can send it over to SolidWorks, Creo, Inventor, NX, and AutoCAD. And I happen to have SolidWorks open here. So if I come over to SolidWorks and I say start from first feature, I can go ahead and send this inside of SolidWorks. So I will just switch over to my other screen. So now you see the SolidWorks. Now if I go ahead and hit send, it'll open up a new part since I had no part open inside of SolidWorks. And it will build everything in here as native geometry within inside of SolidWorks. So you see that mesh fit and all the features that I've modeled thus far will come across as native geometry. And once it finishes here, we'll have the ability to go back and make edits to that. You see, because we've created it all, I can edit any of this geometry and just hide all those. And you see here, if I have the mesh fit there, I can go ahead and toggle that off as well. And if I just click on the different features here, you'll see them. I didn't go ahead and Boolean them. I could Boolean them inside of DX and then bring them over. But the important thing to understand here is if I click on this sketch and I can come over, here's the original sketch with the relations and constraints. If I go ahead and get out of that, the same thing goes for even the things that I automatically extracted. So if I come over here and I say I want to extract and edit that sphere, I can do so there. You see here that I got the cylinders. Edit those. And you see here that I could make changes to those dimensions and have them update. So now if I save this part, let's say I finish modeling it and I save this part, I can continue the manufacturing process inside of SolidWorks. I can create assemblies, drawings, I can take it into analysis software, bring it over to the CAM package over here, run toolpaths, and go ahead and manufacture the part from here on out. So DesignX Go is an extremely powerful set of tools. Directly inside of DesignX, we have a bunch of CAD tools available, and then you have the ability to live transfer all of that information over to CAD, something that nobody else has. Nobody has the ability to send to all of those different versions as native entities inside of CAD. So it's the only product in the market at this price point that'll allow you to do something like this. So that's my presentation of Geomagic DesignX Go. And I hope it's been helpful for you to understand what functionality we have inside of this product. Thanks a lot for your time.